Ballard Canyon thing, getting the AVA going, and Syrah.
Yeah. So Ballard Canyon is probably one of the most amazing things that happened in my lifespan. It definitely is on the list of one in a lifetime event. When we came here, Santa Barbara has always had, it's the Achilles heel of Santa Barbara is we grow great wine, we grow great fruit. Everything we make here is good. I could tell you hands down, there's not a bad winery that I've tried in this valley, but we make everything. We got Pinot, we got Cabernet, we got Merlot. So people out in the wine industry are like, that doesn't work, that doesn't compute. Like Napa's known for Cab, so like why are you guys known for so many? It doesn't make sense, it doesn't compute. So there's a point where a valley, I think, has an identity crisis, like which is our best foot forward. If you look at Santa Barbara, 70% of it is Pinot and Chardonnay. That is obviously the best foot forward, but that's not the only foot that they have. And the dynamic of this valley being east-west, open to the Pacific, hotter on the east, cooler on the west. You can't grow Pinot on my vineyard, and you don't even try it when you go further east. It changes the game, and so a lot of us had to figure out what would do well. Ballard Canyon is it's the Goldilocks syndrome. This porridge is just right for Syrah. It's too cold for Bordeaux varieties, and it's too hot for Burgundy varieties. So that leaves you in the Rhone. And if we were to look at Italy, maybe it'd leave you probably closer to Tuscany, but really to us it's the Rhone. And we looked at when we went to plant the vineyard, well, what are we going to plant? The Rhones were obviously the top notch to pick. But we, at that time, you're looking at the crystal ball. Well, Syrah, it's a great grape. But where's the market? Where's the future of it? I think we were enticed because there was no future at that time. Eric Asimov didn't label Syrah as something that's hard to sell at that point. It was like, hey, this is pretty straightforward. There is a potential future here. And sideways hadn't happened yet either. So it was like one of these things where, a lot of people that came, probably in the late 90s realized that Rhones were the way to go. The funny thing is, most of us planted a lot of Syrah without talking to each other. I didn't know the Beckmans until a couple years later. I never met the Stoltmans until a couple years later. A lot of the Honada folks, we didn't know who to talk to because they were going through different ownerships for a while. So a lot of us were kind of like operating on our own, but doing similar things, and that similar thing was always Syrah. And so it took a bunch of us to finally sit down in a room and taste each other's wines, and we were forced to do that because in I think it was like 2009, somewhere in that range, we hosted some sommeliers that come to the area. And Larner at that time was just starting to make wine, so I really didn't have anything to pour. So I called up my clients and said, hey, who wants to give me some bottles? This is what we're doing. And so I actually poured our vineyard wine, not wine that I made. But I poured it side by side with Stoltman, Honada, Harrison Clark, Beckman, Rusak. And we did it for sommeliers. And what was striking for us is if we had done it blindfold, we probably would look like idiots because it was hard for us to determine exactly the differences between some of the wines. And what I mean by that is like there were signature traces in all the Syrahs that we tried. And so we were like, wait a minute, if there's signature traces, there's something going on here, right? And the way I always say it is when it's time to look at an AVA or you have a good vineyard when the vineyard speaks louder than the winemaker because of soil, because of the climate. And so all of us sitting in a room, and we focused in on let's all pour one vintage and let's all pour Syrah. We tasted all the Syrahs. We were like, wow, guys, there's a lot of similarity. There was definitely unique nuances. This one had a little more toast, this one had a little more chocolate, whatever. But there was minerality, there was clarity of fruit, there was structure, tannins, all these things that were very, very complementary and similar in a good way that we're like, what, I think there's something unique here. Well, it was kind of hit over our head when we went to the Q&A with the sommeliers, and there was literally 100 of them, that they all said to us, well, why aren't you guys an AVA? And we're like, the question, why aren't we an AVA? We'll get back to you on that one. And And I think a lot of us were apprehensive because we all came with the same school of thought that sometimes AVAs can subdivide an area and make it clear as mud. And but when we had sommeliers, the people that are going to be selling my wine when I'm not standing there, the industry, the folks that are educated on regions telling you that you should be an AVA, you're kind of like, okay, I think we really need to pursue this. And so I think that was like the catalyst. I mean, the idea of doing an AVA probably started back in Stoltman when he first planted, but at that time he was just one vineyard, so you have no track record. But it takes time, it takes producers, it takes people with focus, and luckily we were a small, tight-knit group, so it actually streamlines the process too. If we were a bigger area, it would take us a lot longer. I mean, you look at Los Olivos district, who's the current applicant, it's taken him probably 8 years to get where he is. We did it in 3. And that's from start to finish. He hasn't finished yet by any means. He's still got another year or two. So, you know, the key players, the focus, the industry seeming willing to accept Ballard Canyon AVA became my mantra to say, okay, guys, let's do this. But let's not reinvent the wheel. I don't need to learn, TCD language. Let's hire someone who's done it. Wes Hagen was his perfect candidate, had written 2 applications for AVAs already. So you go to him and say, look, you've got the the template document. Just let's massage it into Ballard Canyon. So that streamlined the process. So the whole thing took us probably about 2 years. 1 year of collecting data, 1 year to go in through a lot of the red tape, and then it got approved last harvest. So I think the catalyst was the fact that we all got together and tasted these wines, but the reality is these wines were speaking louder than all of us, because there was nuances in there that were specific to Ballard Canyon, that if I went to go make Beckman's wine, would still be there. If I went to go make Jorian's wines, they'll still be there. And that's something that I think speaks volumes to the authenticity of that AVA and the concept of doing that AVA. And again, a lot of us are still worried because, like, when I go to New York and be like, hey, at Ballard Canyon, they're going to be like, where the hell is that? Right? And I'll be Santa Barbara, where the hell is that? Right? So but it becomes a piece of the puzzle. And what we've decided is, if we're going to start talking Ballard Canyon, we got to do it focused. And just like we're a tight knit group, we can stay focused. We got to stay focused. Let's make Ballard Canyon have one identity to start: Syrah. 600 acres of planted grapes in Ballard Canyon, over 300 planted to Syrah. Hello, there's your champion, right? We all know that does well there. Let's make that the focal point. Okay, so everybody who's going to use Ballard Canyon should be hyping up that and synonymously with Syrah. To reinforce that, we also said that's not just enough to be talking Syrah. Let's get people trained on Ballard Canyon and Syrah. So we came up with a custom molded bottle that actually just says Ballard Canyon in the glass. So if you ever have like a Barolo, sometimes it says Albesia, the same kind of concept. Boom, there's a distinct, Rhone-shaped bottle that has Ballard Canyon written into it, and the only people that can use it are estate vineyards and wineries, and it can only be used on Syrah. So I can't use I have estate Viognier, but I can't use that bottle for Viognier because we didn't want to dilute the message yet. We wanted people to be like, pick up a bottle and say, Ballard Canyon, oh, that's the Syrah. And then we've killed 2 birds with 1 stone. We've trained them, Syrah, Ballard Canyon, Syrah, Ballard Canyon, Syrah. Either way, you still have those 2 synergistically together. And so that will kind of, we hope that clarity and that focus will really hone in on Ballard Canyon is the best Syrah in California. We'll hope the best will be proved with time and with the scores and everything like that. But so we get them talking Ballard Canyon and Syrah, then they'll start saying, well, if I want a good Syrah, I'll go to Ballard Canyon, and then hopefully Ballard Canyon is the best Syrah, and it kind of progresses out that way. Then, 5-7 years, we'll sit down and, okay, guys, maybe now we can start to say Grenache is also good in Ballard Canyon. We can use the bottle in Grenache. But, one thing at a time. The mold is really designed for Syrah, to showcase the Syrah, and then let that build the brand. So that's what's kind of unique about the dynamic of the group that we have, and the angle that we're taking is something that I think is sort of unique to California. I don't know any other region that's taken a bottle. I know there's one in Oregon that just started doing it for their region, but they didn't focus on variety to that region. And so we are very focused at this point. So
it's exciting.
It's very exciting. Yeah. I mean, and we've got good players, good winemakers, you know, again, but the vineyards surpass all of us, and I think that's why we're proud to put that in the bottle, in the glass, you know, and you know, so all my other 23 clients that I sell fruit to will only be able to say Ballard Canyon
Right.
has an AVA on their label. They won't be able to use the mold, but that's a sacrifice because, you know, it's because we did want to make sure it was staying on the estate, because again, we wanted to keep it focused.